Island and I'll be one till I die. I'm proud to be an islander, and here's the reason why.
Hi, my name is Devon Fahey, and I'm here with a special guest, and here he is. Hi.
Hi.
What's your name?
My name is Dale Jarvis, and I am a folklorist and an author and a storyteller.
Okay. I'm not going to keep you waiting, so I'm going to get right into the questions.
All right.
Question 1. Why are stories and legends so important to Newfoundlanders?
I think stories and legends are important to Newfoundlanders because it is a way of us being tied to our past and who we are as a people. A lot of people who live in Newfoundland, their families long ago, they came from places like Ireland or the West Country of England, where there's lots of stories. And when those people settled here, they brought those stories with them, and they still love telling those stories.
Okay. Question 2. Why are a lot of these stories based on ghosts?
I think a lot of people like ghost stories. People like stories that are a little mysterious. Do you like?
Yes.
Is that why you like them? Yeah. And I think people like things that maybe are a little bit scary. You know, people like scary movies or scary TV shows.
Yeah.
And so for as long as people have been telling stories, I think those kinds of stories are the stories that some people like to listen to.
Okay. Question 3. I am interested in ghost ships. How common are these stories and why?
We have a lot of ghost ship stories in Newfoundland and in Labrador. A lot of stories about phantom ships or haunted ships or strange lights or strange things that happen at sea. And I think part of that is because we have such a long history in Newfoundland of ships and shipwrecks. There are certain areas in the province where there were many, many shipwrecks.
Mm-hmm.
And telling those ghost stories about shipwrecks is a way to remember the past and a way to make sure that those stories continue on. Sometimes having a ghost story associated with the shipwreck makes it a bit more of an exciting story, so it's more likely to get shared in the future.
Yeah. Okay, question 4. Can you tell me one of these stories?
Yes, I can. There's a lot of different ghost ship stories, and there's a lot of stories from Conception Bay. There's a very famous ghost ship called the SS Blue Jacket. That was a ship that caught on fire and sank, and people still see the ghost of the Blue Jacket wreathed in flames sailing through Conception Bay. But one of my favorite stories from Conception Bay is about a ship, a schooner called the Isle of Skye. So the Isle of Skye is an island in Scotland, and there was a family who had a schooner in Holyrood that was called the Isle of Skye. And the brother and the fathers had a fishing rooms in Labrador. Do you know what a rooms is? A little collection of buildings. That's where their family went and would fish. And one year they were going to go fishing, and the youngest brother was sick, and they waited and waited, but he didn't get better. And they said, we have to leave, we have to go to Labrador, because if we stay behind, we're going to miss the fishing season. So he stayed behind with his mother, and his dad and his brothers all sailed off for Labrador. And the boy got better, and he waited all summer. And then there was one night in the fall of the year, and he looked out, and he could see in Holyrood Bay a ship sailing in, a schooner, and he recognized it as the Isle of Skye. And so he said to his mother, put on the kettle, I'm going to row my little boat out to the schooner, and I'm going to get my brothers and father, and I'm going to come back and we'll have a cup of tea. So his mother put on the kettle, and he went out, got in his little rowboat, and he rowed out into the center of the bay, but there was nothing there. There was no ship. The moon was shining down on the water, and there was nothing at all. So he was very concerned, frightened by this, and he went back home and told his mother what had happened. Now, in those days, there was no cell phones or internet or anything like that, and it was a few days later that they got very sad news that the Isle of Skye had been lost in a storm. It had sunk on the way home from Labrador, and his father and all his brothers had died in the wreck. And what he had seen was a ghost ship. It was the token of the Isle of Skye that he had seen coming in. And after that, people would sometimes see this ghost ship sailing into Holyrood, and people always said that it was a sign that a storm was coming, because if they saw the Isle of Skye, a few days later there would be a big storm in Conception Bay. That's one of my favorite Conception Bay ghost stories about ships.
Yeah, they're always really good.
Good. Well, thank you for the interview.